The anime begins by showing a man named Tigrevurmud Vorn, a soldier of the Kingdom of Brunei who is in a war camp. Tomorrow, there will be a battle between the Kingdom of Brunei and the Kingdom of Jisutato in the border region. Afterward, a noble man named Zion Thénardier came with his 2 soldiers who underestimated Tigre's abilities because he only relied on an old bow in battle. By the time the battle began, the Brunei royal army had suffered a crushing defeat that killed all of their soldiers except Tigre. After that, a woman on horseback named Eleonora Viltaria and 2 of her soldiers crossed in front of Tigre, hiding. Tigre immediately attacked her by releasing his arrows at Eleonora's soldiers. But just as he was about to release his last arrow, Eleonora approached him on horseback and broke his arrow with her sword. Seeing this, Eleonora was amazed at Tigre's courage and asked him to join the Jisutato kingdom. According to the rules, Eleonora made Tigre their prisoner first, and then the Jisutato kingdom would demand a large ransom from the Brunei royal nobles. If within 50 days there is no ransom from the Kingdom of Brunei, then Tigre will officially belong to the Kingdom of Jisutato. After being in the Jisutato kingdom, Eleonora asked Tigre to show his abilities in front of the kingdom's residents. He seemed reluctant to do so, so everyone underestimated his abilities. At the same time, a man in black robes infiltrated the kingdom and wanted to attack Eleonora with his arrows. Luckily, she realized it and managed to thwart the man's actions. Knowing this, Tigre swiftly shot the man's feet, and without realizing it, the kingdom's citizens were amazed at his ability. Not long after, a female knight named Limelicia came to explain to Tigre that Eleonora admired his archery abilities. She wanted him to become the Jisutato royal army and show his ability in front of all the royal war soldiers. Eleonora then told Tigre that during the previous battle, the Jisutato royal army only numbered 5,000 people while the Brunei royal army numbered 25,000. Even though the Jisutato kingdom was outnumbered, they defeated the Brunei kingdom in a battle time of 12 hours. This happened because many of the Brunei royal troops fled from the battlefield and fled like cowards. But after the fight was over, Tigre, who was then a Brunei soldier, appeared, even daring to attack Eleonora alone, which made her admire his courage. After telling the story, Eleonora again offered Tigre to serve the kingdom of Jisutato and she would bestow an honorary title of nobility on him. But he refused because he had a territory called Alsace, which was the territory where his home was. After that, Tigre walked into the royal passageway and met a man named Rurik. Rurik had just shaved his head bald as an apology to Tigre for underestimating him earlier. Tigre blushed and said that it was no big deal. In the evening, a man named Batra came to the kingdom of Jisutato to meet Tigre. He gave information that the Brunei royal army would attack Alsace, and Tigre rushed to go there. But Eleonora confronted him because he would die in vain if he faced them alone without an army. After that, Tigre begged Eleonora to borrow her troops to Alsace. She agreed on one condition: that after they won the battle, the Alsace region would become the territory of the Jisutato kingdom. Tigre agreed. Then Eleonora sent 1,000 troops to accompany him to Alsace. In the kingdom of Brunei, a man named Felix Aaron Thénardier is the noble head of the Thénardier family. He asked Zion to attack the Alsace region using 2 giant dragons and bring his 3,000 men into battle. The next day in Alsace, a maid named Tato was evacuating the residents to a safe place, so that by the time Zion and his troops arrived, they had found no one in the residential area. After that, Zion and his 300 troops decided to go to Tigre's house. Arriving there, Zion met with Tata. He was very angry, took his anger out on Tata, and wanted to harass her. Luckily, Tigre came just in time to help her and fired his arrow through Zion's arm. After that, Tigre picked up Tata on horseback and took her away from Zion. It turned out that behind the tree was a Brunei soldier who stalked them and fired his arrows at Tata. Tigre, who was alert, then managed to catch the arrow with his hand. After the fight at his house was over, Tigre decided to use his father's black bow because his bow was worn and cracked. The next day on the battlefield, there were still 2,700 Brunei troops and 2 giant dragons they had to face. Even though Jisutato's army was outnumbered, Eleonora and Tigre confidently led their troops at the vanguard. Tigre started the battle by attacking the Brunei troops in the vanguard and attacking each other. Even though the battle had just started, many of the Brunei troops had died. After that, a dragon appeared before Jisutato's army to attack them. Not long after, it turned out that Limelicia's troops came to help them, so Eleonora could gather the energy of her sword power to fight the dragon. As a result, the dragon could be defeated with just a single strike from Eleonora's sword, giving Jisutato's troops the upper hand in the fight. Seeing that Zion wanted to run away too, Tigre and Eleonora blocked him. Zion, who failed to escape, challenged Tigre to duel with him. The two of them prepared for a duel, Tigre using his black bow while Zion used a spear and shield. With Tigre's skill in archery, he easily attacked Zion with his bow and managed to injure Zion's arm. Suddenly it made Zion cry and run away, riding the one remaining dragon. After that, Tigre's black bow signaled by changing its color to attack the dragon immediately. With the help of the power of Eleonora's sword, the celestial dragon and Zion can be brought down, and the battle ends with their victory. After the battle, Tigre and his friends began to live a peaceful life. Afterwards, came Limalicia, who asked Eleonora to return to the royal capital of Gisutato, while she would remain in Alsace to monitor the area. In the kingdom of Brunei, Felix, who still had not accepted defeat in the previous war, ordered an army of sworders to kill Tigre. Not only that, but he ordered another army of sworders to fight Eleonora. When Eleonora arrived in the Gisutato kingdom, the king immediately summoned her to appear. He was furious that Eleonora had waged war without his permission and knowledge. After that, a woman named Sofia Obertas came to calm the king's anger. Eleonora was sitting in the garden alone the next day when a female sword knight named Ludmilla Luri came. As usual, the two of them were arguing about body shape. Seeing the two from a distance, Sofia approached them and broke up the debate, and Ludmilla chose to leave from there. Sofia then explained to Eleonora that Ludmilla's ancestor was still related to the Thénardier nobles. Therefore, Eleonora had to be careful of Ludmilla because she might become their enemy in the future. Elsewhere, Tigre visited several kingdoms around Alsace to devise a plan and seek reinforcements against the Brunei army. After that, Tigre and Limalicia met Eleonora in the Gisutato kingdom. There, Eleonora explained that 7 knights could be loaned out in the kingdom as long as they were able to pay dearly. Soon, Ludmilla came and said she was one of the knights who would help the Brunei army. While on the way to a place, suddenly Tigre and others were blocked by the assassination squad so that a battle broke out. Not wanting to stay silent, Ludmilla attacked the assassination squad with her ice power. However, a snake suddenly attacked Limalicia's right chest, so Tigre immediately gave first aid to her wound. Shortly after, they rushed toward a nearby town to heal Limalicia. Luckily, thanks to Tigre's first aid, she was able to recover quickly. Eleonora, who observed Tigre's good attitude towards Limalicia, was jealous. After that, Ludmilla devised a plan to attack Eleonora's army and Tigre, indicating that they would be on different sides and attack each other in that battle. Long story short, even though the first battle ended evenly, Ludmilla's troops excelled in the second battle. This was marked by the success of Ludmilla's army in capturing the castle in the snowy mountains so that Tigre and Eleonora's troops had difficulty fighting it. However, Tigre had a way of overcoming this by disguising himself in a bear suit to find a safe way during the battle. But while traveling through the mountains, Tigre met Ludmilla instead. Thanks to his bear clothes, even she didn't recognize him. After that, they spent the night on a slope not far from where they met. Only then did Ludmilla find out that the bear was Tigre in disguise. She then told him that she helped the Thénardier nobles because she had to and didn't like them at all. However, her ancestor had ties to the Thénardier noble family, so she had no choice but to help them. And after that, they finally parted ways. On the way, Tigre found another way to the castle in the icy mountains and traced the road to the castle. Arriving there, Tigre tried to break into the castle, but Ludmilla seemed to have strengthened her defenses. Seeing that, he intended to borrow the power of Eleonora's wind sword to destroy the castle gates, and they finally managed to break through them. After entering, they met Ludmilla, and a fight between Eleonora and Ludmilla broke up. A member of the assassin group wants to attack Ludmilla in the middle of the fight, and luckily, Tigre can thwart their action. Ludmilla, who felt she had been helped, wanted to give him a gift. Hearing this, Tigre then asked her to be on the neutral side so that she would not be on either side when fighting Thénardier later. That way, they could focus on fighting the Thénardier nobles in battle. And finally, Ludmilla agreed to the request. A scene shows Felix and Gonellen controlling the king of Brunei. That way, they could send any troops they wanted, one of which was the invincible black knight named Roland. It was seen that Roland, the leader of the Brunei kingdom's army, was heading toward the battlefield. Roland was ordered by the king to eradicate rebels like Tigre. When he was on his way, Roland ran into Eleonora, and they fought. Just as she was having a hard time facing him, Tigre came from a distance preparing to attack Roland, and a fistfight ensued. Tigre, who almost fell from his horse, then aimed his bow at Roland's horse so that his horse was successfully paralyzed by him. Meanwhile, Tigre managed to get away with Eleonora even though she was badly injured by Roland's attack. Sofia, who saw Tigre and Eleonora were injured, tried to block Brunei's troops so that the two of them could go to a safe place. She overthrew the troops one by one until their leader, Roland, immediately attacked her. Feeling that she had bought enough time for Eleonora, Sofia finally ran away. On the other hand, Tigre, who was injured from Roland's attack, was still lying on the bed. Meanwhile, one of his friends, Mashas, managed to enter the royal palace of Brunei. Looks like the king is still in shock over the prince's death in the previous battle. Therefore, Felix and Gonellen can control the king and command the royal army. After that, it appeared that Tigre, who had woken up, was then asked by his beau to go somewhere. That's why Tigre and Tata headed to a place he wanted and then arrived at a collapsed building. Arriving there, suddenly, Tata's consciousness was taken over by Turnafal, who is the goddess of darkness and death. The goddess would give her power to Tigre on the condition that he must shoot Tata. He accepted the challenge and filled his bow with full force, but his arrows were destroyed before hitting Tata. The goddess appreciated Tigre's efforts and then gave him strength. After that, he rushed to the battlefield. On the other hand, Eleonora with Sofia and the others were also prepared. Eleonora again faced Roland and was assisted by Sofia in defeating him. However, even Roland, who had been hit by Eleonora's ultimate attack, could still survive. Not long after that, Tigre arrived and was ready to face Roland. After being hit by a very strong attack from Tigre, Roland finally admitted defeat for the first time, and in the end, Tigre's army and Eleonora won the battle. After the battle, Eleonora was asked to return to the royal capital of Gisutado. She received news that other war dancers had attacked the war dancer Chassa's residence. On the other hand, Roland, who visited the kingdom of Brunei, had been trapped in a room with 1,000 deadly bees inside. As a result, he died standing up. Hearing the news of Roland's death, Felix was furious with Gonailan because Roland was the strongest knight in the kingdom of Brunei. This will certainly weaken the kingdom's defenses. Knowing this, the Muwazinal kingdom attacked the border and took over the Brunei kingdom. This situation divided the nobles of Tenodir and Gonailan. Tigre thought of a strategy to deal with enemy attacks in the same situation. He was reminded of the weapons that Roland left entrusted to him. Moments after that, Tigre invited his troops to scout the enemy troops. There, he saw a woman being chased and surrounded by enemy troops. After that, he rushed to the rescue and took the woman to safety. Long story short, the battle between the Brunei army and the small-scale Muwazinal army broke out. However, armed with the reconnaissance that Tigre carried out the other day, even the enemy troops could easily be defeated, as well as the residents of Brunei who had been taken prisoner by the enemy. After that, Tigre and Ludmilla again discussed the strategy against the Muwazinal troops. However, this time the Muwazinal troops numbered 40,000, divided into 7 groups, while their troops were already exhausted from the previous battle. That means, like it or not, they have to end it in one battle. After that, the battle began. It was seen that Tigre and Ludmilla managed to outwit the enemy. Thanks to that, they managed to eradicate one group of enemies. The leader of the Muwazinal army, Curies, did not remain silent. He ordered his 3 groups of troops to surround Tigre and Ludmilla and the rest to surround the mountains surrounding the residences. But Curies instead stayed away from the battle, worried about being hit by Tigre's deadly bow. It was seen that Tigre and Ludmilla had had enough trouble facing a large number of enemy troops. Moments later, 5,000 reinforcements arrived, ready to take orders from Tigre. Not only that, but 3,000 troops led by Mashes are also ready to be seconded. But that was already known to Curies. He immediately withdrew all his troops and returned to the kingdom in a very cornered condition. He stated that Tigre's abilities were far above Roland, the Black Knight, and the battle this time was again won by Tigre and the troops. Tigre now got the nickname Silveras, which means Star Archer. After winning, Tigre and Ludmilla were able to sleep peacefully. But while sleeping, Tigre was visited by a woman named Regan, or known as Prince Rignaz, who had been saved by him. Regan disguised herself as a man for the sake of the queen's safety because a queen who only gave female offspring would be executed in the kingdom of Brunei. She wants to go to a secret place only the royal family can open to prove that she is indeed a descendant of the king. That place was Lutetia, the territory of the Gonailan noble, and she would stay there with Tigre and the others. On the way to Lutetia, Felix's army blocked Tigre's army. Eleonora and Ludmilla immediately attacked the 5 dragons that were already there. Even though they managed to defeat 3 dragons, the remaining 2 were much stronger, making it difficult for them to fight them. With some consideration, the 2 armies retreated temporarily. After a while of re-strategizing, the 2 of them started fighting again. It can be seen that Eleonora and Ludmilla's attacks have now changed, where they initially focused on attacks with internal power. Still, after rearranging their strategy, they now use their swords for melee attacks. As a result, the remaining 2 dragons were defeated. After that, they still intend to continue to Lutetia to prove to the people that Regan is really the king's son. Then Regan explained that there were 3 underground roads leading to the city, one of which was through the temple, which was not far from their current position and would soon go straight to the temple. While exploring the underground passage, Felix's troops suddenly stopped their steps, and the battle was unavoidable. Tigre was attacked by one of the knights of Felix's army, who was very strong until Tigre felt his strength was unable to face the knight. Suddenly, the passage was about to collapse in the battle, and the knight further cornered Tigre, who had been overwhelmed. Fortunately, Batra managed to pull and save Tigre from the ruins of the passage. In fact, Batra's condition was almost dying due to the attack of Felix's troops. However, he was relieved to be able to save Tigre possibly one last time. And finally, Batra died without any remorse. It was because of that incident that later could awaken the hidden power from within Tigre. So unexpectedly, thanks to that power, he was able to get out of the ruins. Eleonora, who had left the passage first, immediately brought Tigre to headquarters. After Tigre woke up, he was sad because Batra was a precious figure to him. Eleonora also constantly encouraged him even though they had lost many friends and troops. But he had to remember his identity and determination to continue to protect his homeland from the evil of the enemy. And Tigre was again cheerful and excited. The next day, Tigre met with the Prime Minister and he was told that the king had regained consciousness. And the Prime Minister was convinced that the king had been poisoned by Gonalen. The Prime Minister then asked Regan to meet the king because it was feared that his age would not be long. Then Tigre and his troops agreed to have a final battle against Felix's army. Long story short, the battle went according to plan. The enemy troops now only left the leader, namely Felix himself. There, Tigre already wanted to kill Felix with all his strength. However, Eleonora soon realized Tigre had been overcome by his own anger. Tigre realized then he wanted to defeat Felix with just one arrow, and the effort was successful. Felix was defeated, and the long battle ended with Tigre and his army winning. After that, Tigre and others headed to the Brunei kingdom. There, they were warmly welcomed. The king was very grateful that Tigre had saved the kingdom and the king's daughter. Tigre was then crowned as the candidate for the next king. The moral that can be learned from this anime is, when someone has an ability, there is no need to spit on that ability just for a confession. Because people who don't like you will argue with it, and people who like you don't need it. But there will be times when that ability is needed. Not only those around you but even the world will recognize it.